6 Information Technology students on topic Time and Global States. Session by Manish sir, Professor and Dean, Department of Computer Science Engineering, Adi Shankara Institute of Engineering and Technology, Kaladi. He is the KTU Research Supervisor and Research Center Coordinator. He has 13 years of teaching experience and research experience and 1 year industrial experience. He published 2 patents, 3 SCI and 3 Scopus journal papers in the last 3 years. We welcome you, sir. And instruction for students, the students can use the QA panel for typing any queries regarding the topic. And when they exit the class, a feedback form will be displayed and you have to fill in that feedback form. Okay, we welcome you, sir. We can start the session.
Thank you. So today we are going to discuss about the module for the topic time and global states in distributed system for the IT department, third year students, and it is for semester 6. Today we are going to discuss in brief, we are going to discuss about the time management in the distributed system and the issues related to the time synchronization. And we are going to look at the introduction part of the clocks. Then we will look at the different types of clock like physical clock, logical clock, and vector clocks. And we will dealing with some algorithms which can overcome the synchronizing issues in the clock time. So these are the issues. These are the topics we are going to discuss today. Time issue is something like that. Some application need to record the time whenever I event out. So every application or every process in the computer should record the time so that they can work in accordance with the different requirements. So basically, it starts from the initial level from an operating system process to an e-commerce application. So whether it will be an e-commerce application or a single small process in an operating system, both require the timestamp and an order to communicate and to update its states. So that is a need for a time in the distributed system and as well as the common conventional system. And the ideal example is the e-commerce, electronic commerce, where we are dealing with nowadays at the time of this pandemic. We are frequently using these kind of methods for buying, selling, or even transmitting amount, all kind of paying bills and everything. So in e-commerce, it is one of the main requirement that it should be timestamped and should be followed in an order, and even the transfer of fund, everything should be updated in a method in such a way that it should be follow some order. If it is not following any order, it may cause some loss of money, and that kind of things may happen while transmitting. And we have to relate events, one event to another event using this time. So these are the different requirements why we are focusing the time part in the distributed system. And the physical events in the distributed system will order based on a multiple frames of reference, because in distributed system the entire system is structured over in a vast area on different nodes, and different nodes have their own their own events and their own process, and the time used by the different nodes may differ. So we require an accurate time. And the problem is based on a similar limitation is our ability to timestamp event at different nodes sufficiently accurate to know the order in which the pair of events occurred or simultaneously. So whether we are to able to timestamp in a correct order, whether the events or the process has occurred parallelly or simultaneously. So these things can be identified using a timestamp. And to passing the message from one event to another event will also related to this kind of timestamp. For this, the computer can be synchronized using this time, and basically using the method called message passing. So one event timestamp can be updated with another event using the method called message passing, where we'll pass the message and the content of the message will be the time. We'll be adding the time to that message and it will be sending to another event. So in entire, we'll be discussing in the first house, we'll be discussing about these kind of clocks, starting from the physical clock to the logical clock to vector clock. And we will be defining different order like total order and partial order of events. And we are measuring physical time, we are updating time. These kind of things will be there in the first half of the module. And second half of the module will be totally dealing with the algorithm for updating the global status of the distributed system as they execute. So these are the two parts of the module, and today we are going to discuss the first half of this module. When it comes to the clock, basically to order and timestamp, initially we will be discussing in a single processor scenario, and we assume that there is no transfer of communication between and sharing of the memory between the two process 1 and process 2 displayed in the diagram. So we have a process 1 on processor 1 and process 2 on processor 2, and there is no in between communication between process 1 and process 2. So the events are not interdependent between these process 1 and process 2. The events are like independent. And in this sequence, a single process PI will placed in a total ordering, and we can denote by a notation like E happens before E dash. And let us assume that event 1 and 2, the E will be 1 and E dash will be 2. So E happens before 2, and there will be no confusion in this scenario. There is a single process and it is not sharing memory and it is not doing any communication from one process to another process in a different processor. So, and it's a x-axis is the time, and here there will be no issues with the synchronization or anything, something like that. So this is not a scenario what we are dealing with in distributed system. So we have to look in a different way. For that, we will be having a physical clock in every node. It will be have a physical clock, and whenever an event occurs, the time and the date will be timestamped on the event. So every process or every event will be have a date and a time which as it is occurred. And another terminology is called clock skew. So we have a n number of nodes in the distributed system. Let us assume that node 1 and node 2. So node 2 have a physical clock and node 1 have a physical clock. So both will have a difference in the time. So that is instantaneous. At the moment t, the both clock will give a different time. So that is called instantaneous difference between the two clocks, and that is known as clock skew. And we'll talk about the clock drift and different clock count time at a slightly different speed. And that is a technical error the clock having, because based on the technical mechanism which they are unknown, they based on the frequency and the oscillation they differ their time, and that terminology is known as clock drift. And finally, we'll be talking about UTC. UTC is a coordinated universal time. It's a one place where the source of the time, where we can get the time updated, and it will be an accurate time. It will be maintained as a standard for time. So that is called UTC. When you talk about the physical clock, the computer contains their own physical clocks, and it will devise the count, and the working of the clocks will be like in its electronic device, count oscillations occurring in a crystal at a definite frequency, and they divide the count and store the result in the counter as such. So that's the way the physical clock commonly works. And we will be talking about a software clock. So how we will be getting a value from this physical clock to a software clock. So operating system need read the value of the hardware clock generated by the physical clock, and it will add an offset to the clock hardware clock, and it will also multiply with the scaling factor. So C of I of t, and I represent the process, and t represent the time, a represent the scaling factor, h of it is hardware clock value or physical clock value, and B is the offset value we are adding it. And in that way, we'll be creating a value called an software clock value, or we will be having a software clock value for corresponding physical clock or hardware. Now we look at the clock skew and clock drift. The instantaneous difference, as already we have discussed earlier, the instantaneous difference between the reading of any two clock is called the skew, and it will happen in distributed system frequently because it will be spread across different nodes and number of nodes, whether it may be 100 or 200 nodes will be connected in a distributed system, and every clock have their own time, and that difference is we are talking about a clock skew. And when it comes to the clock drift, it is a technical issue the clock having in counting the time at different rates and say so they have different time and the reading and the counting of the time will have different. An ideal example is like the oscillator will be having variations in their frequency in accordance with the temperature change. So whenever the temperature change, the oscillator will change the frequency and it will internally affect the reading of the time, and the time may vary. And this concept is called the clock drift. And here show the diagram. And this is a network, a small part of a network of the distributed system where we have 4 nodes displayed over here, and the four nodes have been displaying different time. And this is an ideal example for a clock skew issue in the distributed system. And when this kind of drift and skew is there, we should have a standard time which can overcome the clock skew, not the drift. Because if there is a standard time, we can update the standard time to all the nodes in the distributed system, and we can update with the accordance with the standard time. But clock drift cannot be overcome using a coordinated universal time. And how it is maintained is an atomic time, and it is an international standard for keeping the. And every time our nodes or computer clocks, which we define as Ci of t, will update with this external source of time, and it will be oscillating based on an atomic oscillator, and the drift rate is 1 part of 10 raised to 13. So we identify the accuracy by this value. And one of the example for universal coordinated universal time is FOCS1, and it is a continuous cold CCM Foundation atomic clock situated at Switzerland and is operating way back in 2004. And the uncertainty or precision level of the clock is like 1 second in 30 million years. So that is the accuracy they are predicting for this kind of atomic clock. So this way, like we can we can say that the clock drift is very low in the atomic clock. So that the clock drift issues is very low, and it is very feasible, so that we can update with our nodes and we can overcome the problem of clock skew. And the types of synchronization in the physical clock. And we have 2 types of synchronization. First synchronization, as we mentioned, we will take the UTC standard time from an external source, and we will update with the node in the distributed system, so that all the clock will be updated with the UTC value. Second, that is called the external synchronization. When it comes, if you want to have an order of the events only required, an accurate time is not required, we'll go for an internal synchronization, where the clock available in the distributed system will altogether, like if you take an example, 2 physical clocks will synchronize each other, and you will come to an agreement for a common value of time, and it will be updated with both the nodes. So these kind of synchronization is called the internal synchronization. And also the external synchronization and the internal synchronization, we have a drift bound D. This is a value which define that whether we are updating the value or not, whether the value is correct or not, will be defined by the drift bound D. in both external and internal synchronization. So internal synchronization within the nodes, it will take all the time from the internal nodes, and it will update itself among them. That is called internal. And if we go for an external, from an external source like UTC or an atomic clock, will take the time and will update the nodes in the distribution. And synchronizing physical clocks. So we'll be discussing. There is no need that we have already discussed that we have synchronization. Internal synchronization is also okay when they agree with each other. Each node will agree with each other. Internal synchronization also will update the time, but the drift will happen again, but the order will be made. And we will identify the faulty clock within the nodes, and we will based on this the drift bound T, the faulty clock will be identified and it will be discarded from the calculation. It will be not included. Sometimes the clock may fail and it will be a crash failure. The clock entirely stop ticking and we will be neglecting that value. In other situation, the clock failure may be an arbitrary failure because due to some reason like the batteries are low, the drift rate suddenly become very high, and that will be also neglected for the calculation. So these are the two scenario which will happen with the physical clock, that either it will crash or it will give an arbitrary failure having low battery, and it will be drift rate become very high. Now, when you take the case of a scenario in a synchronizes distributed system, we will be taking an example of two process in a synchronized distributed system, and we'll be also talking about the maximum transition delay between the two processes to update the time, and bound are known for the drift rate of the clock, maximum message transmission delay, and the time required to execute each step of the process. And here we will be taking one process send a time t on its local clock to other in a message jump. So what do we here we and we will be updating its PI time on a message jump, and it will be updated to PJ, something like that. And receiving process should set its clock time with t taken from the message jump to transfer from process I to process J is called the T trans. And this T small t plus capital T transmission delay will be added to her and will be updated by the clock. And here also the deviation may happen due to the network delay, network bandwidth, network congestion. We will be having an transmission delay, either will be very high or very low. If it is an efficient network, the transmission delay will be minimum. If it is network is congested, it will be the transmission time will be maximum. So we have a two value called min and max for minimum transmission and maximum transmission value. Based on that, we will be setting the T trans. And this will be considered as an uncertainty in the message transmission, and that is maximum time to send a message and minimum, like what we worst case and the best case. So the worst case transmission time and the best case transmission time, when you take a difference, you will get an uncertainty of the message transmission that will be represented as U. Now we have three options now. Either the receiving, we have an process. This is a process J. We can consider it is a process P of I, and this is P of J, process of J. And we have an event A occurring in process I at the time T, and this is the event A. It will sending a message to the event B, which is residing on the process J, and the transmission time that we are seeing is small t, that is the time of the time stamp of the event A plus this transmission time. transmission time. So the event B is the receiver. Now even we have an option to either choose three options. So we have either to update this time with the T plus minimum, or it can update with T plus maximum, or it can take the maximum plus minimum average and you can update with the T. So that is done based on the conditions prevailing on the process J at event B, and their timestamp also will be taken into consideration when you update these values for synchronization. So this is the two process communication which can be updating the time from event A to event B. For that, we have three types of algorithms which define this kind of process. The first one is Christian algorithm, and it says about that there will be a process P in a node, and there will be a time server S will be keep tracking of the time. So the process will request for the time using a message M to the server, and server will respond back to the process P with the time, and the P will update the time. So this is the algorithm says about that. Like the algorithm says that the time server control device receives signal from the source of UTC, and the time server what we will be saying that it will be getting an time from an external source like UTC. So UTC will be providing the standard atomic time, and it will be updated in the time server, and this value will be supplied or the events or the process who are requesting the time will be provided to the process upon request. Upon request, the server process will supply the time, the clock time, that is clock time updated by the UTC external source to different process. And here also we have to take care of this round trip time, because we have one from send from P to server. There is a time requirement, and there is also another time requirement T dash when it comes back to the P. So that round trip time should be taken care while calculating the time at P. And even it will be also taken into consideration that it will also measure the performance of the time server also, like whether it is an efficient one, that it is getting the time in accurate time. That also can be taken into consideration by the different process based on this round trip time. And as we've seen that the time value, and in a message empty, it will be sending back the message. It will be embedding the time value in empty message M of T, and will be updating to the process. And here the round trip time will be represented as T round, and it will receive using empty. And the process P record the total round trip time T round taken to send the request MR and receive the reply M. So that will be calculated at the receiving side, and the process B should set it clock to T plus T round by 2. So total round trip time taken by 2, because it knows the time it initiated the message of MR, and also it knows the time at which the MT has received. Because whenever it is initiating an MR, it knows the time, and whenever it is getting the message empty, it is not. So based on that, it the T round time, and the average of the T round time will be taken as the transmission time, because one way that the time will be on the time will be updated. So this part will be only taken into consideration. So it will take an average, because it's not the starting time and end time. It will know the total time divided by 2 will be considered as the time required by sending the time server to the process. It will time split equally, and it will be updating the time with its, and this T is the time the process in their timestamp. So it's updated with that. And here some of the disadvantage of the Christian algorithm is something like that. They will be having a single point of contact, or a single time server may fail, and it will stop the synchronization temporarily. So that's one of the disadvantage. And then that can be overcome using more than one time server. So the process have a possibility like the process or the events can communicate to more than one time service, and n number of time servers are synchronized with the external time source UTC. Then this kind of problem can be overcome. So the client can or client process can multicast the message for the time to n number of time servers. And even though some time servers may be not updated with the correct time, it can be also identified using a multicast message to all time servers, and the all n number of time servers will update the time to the process. That time can be checked, verified, and ideal time can be taken by the client. So that kind of option can be done when we go for a single point of failure, can overcome single point of failure. And also there will be a problem of time server giving incorrect time, that be called as superior time value or imposter time server. Somewhere deliberately or due to some physical issues, it may incorrectly give the time, or due to some network issues, it may incorrectly give the time. So can be overcome using this multiple time servers, and the client can multicast their request to multiple client servers, time servers, and it will respond back based on the getting the response. It can identify the ideal value out of the time server and n number of time servers, and can update its own value. And here also the main disadvantage, the Berkeley another disadvantage they point out is that the faulty clock issues is not addressed. They are giving suggestions, but they are not addressed accurately in Christian algorithm. So it can be addressed in the next algorithm, that is called Berkeley algorithm. So we will now discuss the Berkeley algorithm. So this algorithm basically talks about internal synchronization, and it will be not taking any value externally. So that is the advantage of the Berkeley algorithm. It will be not updating with the UTC time or anything like that. And it is an example for internal synchronization, where the time will be taken internally and it will be supplied internally also. But here there will be a concept called a coordinator, which is known as a master. It is chosen based on some election method, and we have all other nodes will be considered as a slave. And this slaves periodically poll to create to choose one of the master. So here all the slaves will send their clock values to the master, and the master estimate their local time by observing the round trip time, and it averages the value obtained, including the master time also, the master node time also. So based on this calculation, it will identify which is the ideal time or which is the ideal. May not be, it will be accurate, but it will maintain some order, because in internal synchronization maintaining order is important, not given much importance for the accurate time. And here the accuracy of this Berkeley algorithm is totally depending on the round trip time calculation by the masters and the slave. So when there is an round trip time calculation become incorrect, the entire algorithm may goes wrong. So because it will be updating the value, all the slave node will be updating the value to the master, and the master will be responding with based on some calculation, and will be updating the value of the slave. Example, he will be having a master, and this inside that it is given the given is the timestamp of the master, and we have 3 slaves. So initially the Berkeley algorithm will work in such a way that the slave will request their time by time they are providing with their time. So they will be providing their time. Initially the master will request from every slave, then the slave will respond using like this, using their timestamp. They will update to the master. Taking this 3.25 to 2.53, and we have a deviation, major deviation of 9.10, and that is called a fault tolerant average. So we will be we have to eliminate this 9.10, and we will be calculating a fault tolerant average. So the deviation, the higher deviation will be neglected, and an average will be calculated, and the higher and the value or the outlier is deviating higher than the average, that can be considered as a faulty value. And we'll be identifying an average, and this average value will be updated back to the slave or the slave. Updated back to the slave in such a manner that how much time change should be updated in the on time, and it will make all these two slaves and master node value same. And the subset is chosen of clause does not differ from one another by more than a specified time, and average reading from one of these clauses. And the probability is that the master may fail. If the master may fail, then the slaves, a number of slaves can elect a new predecessor or the new master using later election or whatever method algorithm can be used to select the leader. And here I will be giving a problem to everyone. It's a Berkeley algorithm problem. We are providing with some master timestamp values which represent minute and second, and you can note it down like master of 4 minute 32 seconds, slave or 3 minute 35 seconds, like that. We have 5 slaves, and we have something, an outlier is also there, 8.35. so you should neglect this value while calculating the average. You would take find the fault tolerant average, you will find it, and find the value to identify the offset value to be updated in the slave should be identified, and it should be in the slave and the master, and it should be updated also in the master, because it is to take an average and the offset value, how it will be updated everywhere. You have to update that. And this problem you can note it down and you can send it to me for as an assignment. Your assignment or you can represent this problem and you can provide to the below mentioned mail ID. Now, both these algorithm which we have discussed, like Christian method and Berkeley algorithm, which will Christian method talks about an external synchronization and Berkeley algorithm talks about an internal synchronization. But we talk about an intranet. In both cases, we will be talking about internet, and we will be not taking the entire internet as a medium for communication. But the distributed system may spread over in different continent or different countries, and the connection between these nodes may be an primary connection, may be an and not the intranet. So that is the case. We have to use a protocol called network time protocol, and it will provide the time service, and it will provide the protocol to distribute the time over the internet. So that is called network time protocol. Should be used. That should be used. And every client across the internet to be synchronized accurately to UTC. It will be connected in the internet, all the nodes will be connected in the internet, and you will getting the time updated from the UTC. And it will be reliable, and even the loss of connectivity it can survive. It enable the client to resynchronize, and it can found in the most computer, it can correct it, and it will provide a protection against interference with the time series, whether it is accidental or malicious. It can find it and it can update the value. So these are the design names and features of the network time protocol. And this will be the structure of the network time protocol. It should have a primary server basically connected to the UTC, and it will be receiving either in a radio or a different way of communication. It will be receiving the UTC value by the primary server, and the atomic clock value will be updated in the primary server from an external source. And next layer is called the secondary server. Again, it get updated from the primary server, the UTC value, and it will be connected in a logical hierarchy. And finally, if you consider the third level as the leaf node, then the leaf servers are commonly the user workstations or common nodes, and this node will be updated from the secondary server, and it is called as a leaf server. And the final user workstations are called leaf servers. In between the hierarchy, we can have a number of levels, and primary server, secondary level, and like that we can have a number of level, and final level is the leaf server. And entire structure of the synchronization is called the synchronization subnet, as represented in the figure. And every layer is called strata 1, strata 2, strata 3 will be represented as a strata. And we have the clock belong to the server. The highest stratium number are labeled to less accurate than those who are low stratium value. And the low stratium value means the stratium 1 and 2. That is on primary server and the secondary server, which are residing in the hierarchy. So that is called the low stratium number, and that have a higher accurate value than the stratium higher stratium numbers. That is at the leaf nodes. It's nearing to the leaf nodes, having lower accuracy values. And whenever there is a failure in the primary or secondary server, and if you can overcome the failure, you have an option to reconfigure, and it can overcome the failure. And here also different method for broadcasting the message. Broadcasting the time is like there is a multicast mode, there is a procedure call mode, there is a symmetry mode. And multicast mode means the NTP network time protocol will be taking one of the server, and the server will be multiclassing the time value into the network connected by the LAN or whichever may be the medium. It will be multicast their time to the entire number of nodes. So that is the first mode. Second mode is something like the client server model, where the server accepts request from a one client computer, and it will be replying back the clock value. That is the procedure call method. And we have a symmetry method. The server will supply the time information in the LAN by the higher level of synchronization subnet, where the highest accuracy should be SLU. So that is a symmetric mode. These are the three modes in updating the using network time protocol method. And now you will be seeing how the message is transferred between network time protocol between two server A and B. So they will be representing a two server A and server B. And here we will be talking about an offset value OI and a delay DI. So offset OI will represent the estimate of the actual offset between the two clocks, what is the difference between the two clocks, and delay will be representing the DI will be representing the transmission time for the two messages. And it will keep on track of the offset and delay between the two servers, and it will take an 8 successive pairs of, and it will identify the quality of the values of offset and delay between server A and server B. So like we will be sending an TI minus 3 to as a message to TI minus 2, TI minus 1, M dash to TI minus like. So this is the time they are sending the time between two entities. So when ending, they are sending between two entities here, because we have a primary server consider this as a primary server and this is a secondary server. So it will be updating the time. So every time the estimate offset and the delay will be calculated, and it will be taken as a successive prior, and it will be identified to find the quality of the estimate value. And this process is called the filter dispatch. So the quality of the value extending between the primary server, secondary server, and a number of servers in the hierarchy will be identified using a quality measure called filter dispersion. And based on the offset value, it will identify how efficient is the primary server and secondary server is communicating with each other, and it will be taken care. And also we said that we are reconfiguring the primary server and secondary server, because when there is a failure on the primary server, it will be identified using this metric, and we will reconfigure it, and we will change the role of a primary server to a secondary server, and a secondary server to a primary server based on this data. So now we will be going for an logical time. So up to the physical clock and the computer time, hardware clock and the computer clock will be identified, and we identified three different algorithms. First two algorithm basically for internet, last one NTP for internet as a medium. These three algorithm will be talking about the physical time updation and everything. Now, when you go for a physical time updation, there will be a possibility of there will be an error. Any whatever position you will be getting when you go for an updation to a number of level of nodes, there will be a possibility of a drifting the value. There will be a possibility of a transmission time error, and finally the time value will become very obscure. So there is another concept called logical time where the ordering is only preserved and there is no importance or no insistence or importance is given to the value of the time. So only the order of the events, when there is n number of events, the order of the n number of events are only taken care. Then we will have another time terminology, what is known as logical time, and whichever thing which maintains the logical time is called the logical clock. Here we are considering the two events. Let us assume that we are only considering two events, and it consists of the same occurred at the same process, of process I equal to 1 to n, and I represent the process number, something like that. And here we will be having an operator called happens before condition. So that will define, like A happens before B, represent that A is the event happened before B. That's all. When the accurate time event A happened or when the accurate time B happened is not relevant here. Only the order is relevant. And whenever a message is sent between two processes, we can say that an event of sending the message occurred before the event of receiving the message. That will be everyone will be knowing that we will be sending a message and it cannot receive before sending. So it's maintained in order. And this will be taken as the Lamberto called, and this method as a partial ordering obtained by generalizing these two relationship that is happened before relationship. So that is the basic core method which will be working for the logical time, and it is also known as the causal ordering or potential causal ordering, this kind of method, and it is suggested by the Lamberto. So it is also known as Lamberto logical glue. It is known as Lamberto logical, and it is denoted again. And we are using the symbol as a happen before relationship, and we have three types of happen before relationship in the logical time. First one is, it is in the same process. Consider this the diagram, and we have a process P1. Only consider the P1, and we have E event happens before E dash. So that is a condition of the same process. Then say that E will be happen before. We can say that happen before relationship, and we can denote using happen before relationship. Here we can denote like A, B, where two events are there. So we can say A happened before B. So that using this relation we can identify. Now, second type of happen before relation is like while sending the message from one process to another process. It will happen between the event B in the process 1 to the event C in the process P2. And the message transmitting is M1 between the two events, and that will be represented as P happen before C. Whether it may reside on a two different processes, after completing this denoting using happen before relation, the time in the C will be after the time happened in the B, event B. So event B will be happened before C. So that relation, using that relation, it will be connected. Same thing can be done with the D and F. D is residing in another process, and F is residing in a P3. Here also D happened before F can be identified, and we can say that time in D is let us assume T. Then event F will be T dash. It will be happen before. The D will be happen before F. That can be using D happen before F can be identified. And the third one is like something happen like this: E dash and E double dash are the event, and such that E happened before E dash happened before E double dash. then E dash happened before E double dash. So in this example, we don't have an similar situation like that. Again, we can draw that and we can represent. Let us assume that there is an event happening from C, and the event is known as G. In this case, B happened before C, C happened before G. Then we can write that B happened before G event. So that is the third condition in the logical time HP3. And if another one more case is of event A and E, and how the time in the event A and B will be defined in this logic. Again, there is no message transmission between this A and B, and they are totally independent. When that is the case, you have to represent there is no event or related relation between event A and B, and they occur at the different process, and there is no chain of message underlying between them. Then these A and E event are not ordered, and we cannot represent using an happen before relation. Instead of that, we will be representing like this coherent concurrent relationship. And here we will say that E occurred parallel. Whether it has accurately in time, it has occurred parallel or not, that we are not considered. But in logical clock, we will say that A and E are occurred parallel. And now the logical clock, we have seen how we have seen the happen before relationship. Now we have to map it to a numerical value. This happen before relation should be changed to a numerical value, and that should be implemented as Lamberto logical clock. So how it can be done is like we can monotonically increase, like we can increase one by one value, like +1 +1. We can increase a software counter, and we can define relationship between this happen before relation between events, and we can update the logical time at each event. So this is an example for how we are updating the logical clock in the using numerical values. So we have some rules for that to update the logical clock timestamp. Here are some rules. As the same example is taken, and the first logical rule updating, the first rule say that Li equal to Li +1 after each event at Pi. So whether it Pi means the process, here the process will take process 1, Pi, I equal to 1. In the process 1, after each event it will be updated monotonically, the value. So here we have an event A, initially it will be 0. So after updating, completing the event A, it will be updated as 1. After completing the event B, it is updated as 2. Again, when you take the I equal to 2 in your case, like so that is the first rule we have. And in the C and the D, we have some communication is happening. So we'll let's wait for as a last case. When there is no communication, we'll be going for like that. And maybe in E also, in P3, it is updated with 1. So after occurring every event, we have to update the value with 1. Here also we can see from C, it is updated with the event D, and it is updated as monotonically as 1, and it will become 4. Now, when there is a communication between two events of two different processes, how it will be updated? Now, when PI send a message M, it piggybacks the timestamp T equal to Li and send as M, T. That means when the process 1 send any using an event B, sending a message M, it will add their time that is 2, and it will send using in the message, it will send the time 2 to the event C. While receiving this message at the C, the third rule say that when pager receives this message as a message on the timestamp value as 2, it will take maximum of their timestamp value, comma, the timestamp received from the event B, that is 2. So in the case of C, it will be having initially the P2, when the C event occurred, the value will be updated automatically 1, and the P2 are no more even before the C. So the value of the C, that is Lj, will be 1, comma, the updated value, it will be getting from the event B will be 2, and while completing the event C, it will be updated as 2 plus 1, that is 3. That is time received from here plus the event time it having. The maximum of Lj. The Lj value will be here. It will be updated as 3, and applies the LC1 before this time stamping the event receiving the value M. Okay. So it will be a message, and a message has been sent from here, and it is received over here, and it will be updated as 3. So it will be sending the value 2, and if we have an event over, it will be coming over here, and that will be value as 2, and we will be having the maximum of Lj and T will be taken as 3, and again we will be updating with an event D and 5, D comma 5. So we will be having time stamping the corresponding value to the event F, and the value which come from here is 4, so it will be updated as 5. So this is the way the logical clocks will be updating the time. And please note down this as solving this logical clock method. So it will be 3 event P1, P2, P3, and initially some timestamp will be given over here. And it is you should complete all the events in each process and provide it should label first event, and also you should provide the logical time based on the timestamp rule, and send answers to the below email ID for solving the logical clocks. After the logical clocks, we having an issue with some updation. Like, we cannot say that when event A happened before, like event A value is 3, even B value is 4. It doesn't mean that the event A is happened before B. It is only a logical value. In real time, that updation may not be occurred in such a way. So that is a disadvantage of the logical clock, and it should be overcome using a vector clock. And it is a vector, and the vector size will be determined number of processes in the communication. If there is 3 processes, the vector size will be 3. If there is 5 processes, the vector size will be 5. So each process keep its own vector clock Vi, uses to timestamp local event, and the process piggyback vector timestamp on the message they send to one another. So instead of a single time, like it will take like here the process 1 as an event A, so it will update their position time. That is, a process 1 updation time is first one. It will update from 0 to 1, and this second and third will be for process 2 and process 2, that will be remain as 0. When a time occurs, the process 1 position will be updated with an event with a automatically 1, and it will be 1 plus 1 equal to 2, and 0 0 for process 2 and process 3. And this entire value will be sent to the C, where the time will be this B time will be updated over here. And instead of updating, in previous case we are updating the event C value as 2 plus 1, that is 3. Instead of that, here in logical clock we updated the 2 time coming from the event B, and we are updating the event happened in C as plus 1, and we are updating the entire time in the C as 3. Instead of that, in vector clock, it will be updated in their position. So we can clearly identify that in process 2, the first event is C, and the process 1, the first event is A. by identifying this type. In logical clock, we will see that the process to time in the C is 3, and it is the process 2, and ordering have some relation in with P1. But here we can clearly identify that the A is the first event, B is the second event, and C is the first event of P2. And the third process having no communication, so it is put as 0. Now we are updating event C to event D. So there is one event happen in the process 2. The process 2 position will be updated +1. So 1 + 1, it will become 2. So 2, 2, 0 will it happen. And again from D, the message is sent to F. Before that, we have an event called E over here. So it should get updated with the time value. So P1, P2 space will be put as 0, and the P3 space will be put as 1. It will be updated monotonically to 1 as a first event. Now it comes to the message will come 2, 0 will be timestamp on the message M2, and it will come over here. So the position will be updated because the event 1 has happened and there is an event F. So it will be updated 1 + 1 will be updated with 2. Now the timestamp of F is 2, 2, 2. So in this total ordering only, we can identify each process and the way of ordering completely. In previous logical clock, the updation is happening, but there is an non-consistency in the order of the events of different processes when they are communicating with each other. That will be overcome in the vector clocks. And this is the way it will be like updating the vector clocks at each process, and it will be taking the value for all k from ij with vectors time and t, and then receive. This is the rules in which they are updating. And disadvantages with the vector clock is something like that, the size of the message, because in logical clock there is one value we are updating variable, we are updating with a triplet value. So a message size will be increased, and the communication having there will be a problem with the communicating the message, and message size will increase. Again, the communication between the two sides having an higher issues of communication, the transmission issues will be happening. So that is a disadvantage of the vector. And this here we will be having some discussing about some basic global state, like each events have some state will be stored here, and they have their own property checkpoints, and the query will be there, can be done using the global state of the each event. Each event have their own states that will be updated in their state table, and it can be how to capture it, how to denote it, how to use it. This kind of things comes under the global states. And we have distributed garbage collection, where object of non-reference can be removed from the distributed system, and the distributed deadlock situation is that is a combination. Then there will be a deadlock situation, and there will be a termination detection, how the both nodes have been terminated, that can be found out. So this is the way. Like here, there will be one object having no point of reference, is of waste, so it can be removed. But all other objects have some references. The deadlock situation, we are having the P1 process is competing for a P2 resource, and P2 is waiting for a P1 resource, and the deadlock happens. And termination, we can find that a message will be requested from P2 to P1. On the way, the message receiving at P1, the P2 become passive and P1 become passive, and that we can come with the termination condition. And thank you. These are the references I have taken. The distributed system concept, the textbook, prepared textbook by George and Jean and Tim, and also some references from the internet. If you have any questions, you can ask.
So we have one question. Okay, what is the advantage of a vector clock over Lombard's logical clock?
Yeah. Something like that. We have an event A, event is B, and ordering is correct. But when you take the event process timestamp is 3. And we have no events before C. Value is 3. And here also we can see that the first event is, and the second is the timestamp is 5. Timestamp is the logical time. Is not maintained when you take individually with each process. As a whole process, the order is on the communication between two events, the message transfer between two events. When it in each individual process, the ordering is not happened, and we can call it as a total order. And this you take the position of the event A, and the process first position is 1, and B event in the same process as 2. P2, the process P2 position is second one. The first process, the second processor value 2. When you take the P3, the position is third, and the first event has 1, and the second event has 2. So in the vector clock, while in the logical clock of Lambda, it will prefer the transferring the messaging and the message answer, or the difference between the logical and the vector. Hello.
Okay, sir. One more thing. I think it's related to the. Is there any relation between a physical clock and logical clock?
Real time value we are obtaining from an universal and atomic clock or any standard time. And logical clock we have only based on the ordering of the event. One event has occurred prior to another event. That is only maintained, and it is numerically converted to monotonically increasing value. So there is no direct relation between a physical clock and a logical clock. Physical clock will talk about the real time and real clock timing and real standard time updating and all the things. And when come to the ordering clock, that is logical clock, there is no relationship related to the real time. It is only working on an ordering basis. How many processes are there? Based on the process, you go for order, and there is no direct relationship between the time.
Okay, sir. So one more thing. Which are the repeated questions which are asked for KTU?
Repeated questions like you should ask like this, this logical clock and vector clocks total ordering will be a repeated one question. And it will be repeating how, and with an example, you have to showcase how logical clocks and vector clocks are differentiated, and which one is better, what are the advantages and what are disadvantages. These things may come. And also we have 3 types of algorithm we have discussed, like Christian and NTP algorithms.
Okay, sir. We can. I think we have covered all the questions. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, sir. We have come to the end of the session.